Paralympians who are going to be starting off our session today, and hopefully they're there. Look at that, as if by magic they're there. We've got Claire Cashmore, we've also got Ellen Keane and Amy Truesdale. Good morning to you all.
Morning.
You're all there. Great, technology is working. That's a good start. First of all, thank you so much indeed for getting up so early this morning. I really want to start off, if I may, if some of our Reach families might not be familiar with you. I don't know how, but it's possible. So maybe if you could maybe first of all introduce us a little bit. All three of you were at Tokyo, so let's hear a little bit about that, what it was like, the surreal thing that it was a year late and so on, and tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll get into some more questions about Paralympics generally. So maybe start off with you, Claire. Tell us a little bit about, your background. I want to hear about that gold in Rio, and also some of the other things that were going on in Tokyo.
Hi, I'm Claire Cashmore, so I am one of the Reach ambassadors. I am a 5-time Paralympian, which I can say it's clearly early in the morning. So I swam for 4 Paralympic Games, and then after Rio I decided to switch to triathlon. So myself and Ellen actually know each other very well, as we used to race each other very often in the 100 breaststroke. So Tokyo was a bit of a whirlwind. Maybe didn't quite go to plan. Triathlon is quite unpredictable. A lot of things happen out of your control, and I was actually given a penalty, but they didn't time the penalty right, so they made me serve it twice. So it was a slightly bittersweet competition. My boyfriend, the day before, his chain snapped, so he went from being pretty much favourite for the gold medal to suddenly being completely out of the race. So it was an incredible time, but there was definitely some lows part of Tokyo as well.
Very mixed feelings, and I can completely understand that. So, Ellen, it must be that surreal thing where you're on one hand competing against each other, but also supporting each other as well. Okay, I think Ellen might have frozen there. It's just you and I at the moment, Claire. We'll wait for the other two. Oh no, Amy, I just saw you move there, Amy. So let's come to you. And I love the Union Jack there in the background. Fantastic. So tell us, because weren't you one of the first? Because we spoke in the Reach Insights videos. If you haven't seen them, by the way, we'll talk more about them later on. But we spoke earlier on in the year, and I think if I remember rightly, you were one of the first to qualify for Tokyo.
Yeah, I was the first person to qualify, so I did mine through ranking points. You have to be in the top 4 in the world to qualify for the Paralympic Games, and luckily I'd secured ranked number 1 position for the last, I think, 5 years. So that secured my place for Tokyo.
And tell us what it was like just being there, having waited so long to get there with that delay, because a lot of Olympians and Paralympians talked about the training regime, the fact that you had that thing of you weren't sure if 2020 was going to happen, then you had to wait another year, and then was it really going to happen? Then we didn't have any audiences. So how was that for you?
To be honest, I think it was such a positive. I had every faith within my support team and my coach that they'd give us the right training for another year, and I just think it was really valuable. We had another year to work on our areas of development, so I think it was a positive. But yeah, when I got there, excuse me, I just thought, I have been fighting for para taekwondo since 2009. I've been pushing it and trying to get it into the games and trying to medal. So yeah, it was a long wait, but it was worth it.
From your perspective, looking at the future of Paralympics, how do you think Tokyo set us up for Paris and then Los Angeles? How do you feel the movement is at the moment? Coming to you, Claire, first.
I think firstly, actually going back further than Tokyo and going back to London, I think that's where Paralympic sport was really put on a pedestal. And for the first time, we were seen as elite athletes that happened to have a disability, and it wasn't seen as, oh, isn't that great that you're getting involved in sport, isn't that brilliant? And I think the momentum's carried on from there into Rio, into Tokyo. I think in Tokyo we've shown that we're in an amazing place as Paralympics GB. There were some phenomenal performances going on, and sports are growing, the coverage around it's growing, so hopefully it's just going to get bigger and better. And I'm really excited to see how it progresses to Paris. Obviously, Paris will be incredible because it's kind of like a mini home games in the sense that it's only, an hour flight to get there. So hopefully loads of friends and family will be able to come over and just inspire the next generation of future Paralympians coming through. And that's something, I'm really passionate about doing. And hopefully in the future, when we can go back to being in person, getting more Reach kids involved in Paralympic sport would be phenomenal.
And that's a really, really interesting point, actually, isn't it? The fact of inspiring the next generation. And Amy, for you, looking at taekwondo, para taekwondo, bringing new people in, the fact that they can come and watch you in Paris and see what's happening, that must be a major element for the future of the sport.
Yeah, definitely. I think I've been in para taekwondo for such a long time now, and I've seen so much development from when I started to where it's at now. Like when I first started, there was only world-class funding for myself, so I was the only person on the team, and then due to my medal success, it sort of spiraled into creating opportunities for other people, and then obviously it being showcased in Tokyo. It's definitely going to inspire more people into it. There's lots of big changes within my sport personally. There's new classifications, new weight divisions, so that just shows it's already expanding. So I'm really looking forward to see how it will develop going into Paris.
Now, I know we've got lots of Reach families who are going to be watching us this morning, and they will probably have youngsters sat with them. They're inspired by what you're doing, and they're probably thinking, OK, it's fantastic. I really feel that I want to get into para sports, but they're not sure which sports to go for. And, Claire, you were talking about how you switch disciplines and so on. So and we've heard that quite a few times before. So what about a starting point for youngsters? First of all, what age should they maybe start thinking about developing their sporting skills, and then how do you suggest they go about choosing a sport that works for them? So coming to you, Claire, first.
Yeah, I think as a youngster, getting involved in each and every sport and finding out what you love, going to as many different clubs as you can, getting involved in as many different sports at school, and just finding where your passions lie. I don't think at a young age you should limit yourself. I think you should enjoy everything. And then, if you decide you want to take it further, not everybody wants to become a Paralympian. Not everybody has the ability to become a Paralympian. But if you want to take it further and see how far you can get, there's Paralympics GB. They have loads of good resources of where to go and what to do. But also there's a website, I think, called Parasport, and they also have a lot of advice of where to start in disability clubs. I trained alongside able-bodied athletes. I got involved in all sorts of different able-bodied sports before I decided, right, swimming is the route I want to go down. So I think it's really good to kind of keep your options open and try a variety of incredible sports.
Point talked there, Claire, about working and being with able-bodied athletes as well. Do you think, Amy, that that's becoming more popular and more accepted? Instead of making this sort of very strict division between parasports and able-bodied sports, do you see more of that cohesion between the two so that people can actually find themselves a little bit better and actually maybe help people understand parasports a bit better?
I don't know, to be honest, from my own experience, it's very similar to Claire. When I first started out in sport, it was you're in a mainstream class, whether I used to do dancing, swimming, taekwondo. I was the only individual with a disability there. So I think in my mind when I was younger, it's I'll definitely go to the Olympics. A Paralympic dream wasn't even on my radar, if I'm honest. I think nowadays there is so much more inclusion because there is more about para sports. When I was young, 25, 30 years ago, whatever, you didn't know of any other individuals with disabilities or specific para clubs. I think it's really good if you can go alongside in a mainstream club, or I think there's just a lot more support nowadays.
How are you, Ellen? Can you hear us okay?
I don't know what's going on. My internet is working, but just this, for some reason, keeps coming and going. So I'll say hi really quickly, just in case I disappear again. Oh my God, I'm so sad because I wanted to be here fully for the whole thing and talk to you guys. So I'll say hi. I'm Ellen Keane. I'm an Irish Paralympic swimmer. So I'm not from the UK, but well, yeah, I've been a Paralympic athlete since I was 13. So Beijing was my first games, and I've been to 4 games since then. I've been battling Claire Cashmore for a long time, and then in the 100 breaststroke, and after Rio, Claire did transfer over to Paratri. And I don't know, it might have been that, but then I ended up getting this in Tokyo. So I had a really, really good games. Yeah, it took 13 years to find, but that's sometimes what it takes. It takes a lot of hard work and graft, and don't underestimate how much hard work actually goes into it. But sport itself really, really changed my life. I would have struggled a lot with kind of accepting my arm and accepting my disability and kind of having confidence when I was growing up, especially as a teenager. But I always found that swimming and sport was kind of my safe haven. And it was a place where I could actually feel like I could be my true self. And it was through sport that I realized I actually am a really outgoing, happy girl. And I just need to figure out how to be like that in everyday life. And it was actually sport and swimming that gave me the confidence to finally be brave enough to love my body and love my arm and embrace all the fun things that come with having a disability and all the jokes of having one hand.
A question I'd like to ask all of you really here is, because it's fantastic to see you at the top of your game, to see you achieve so much, and congratulations, Ellen, again on that gold medal, just fantastic. But of course, you know, we as the audience sat at home in front of our TVs, we see the just the excitement and the glamour, I suppose, of standing on the podium. But, you know, you all go through easy days, tough days, like every Olympian. How do you deal with those tough days, and especially being a Paralympian when you've got other sort of self-doubts that come in there as well? And these are probably tools that everyone can use in whatever area of life they decide to go into. So what are your coping mechanisms for dealing with those days when you're not feeling as confident, you're not feeling as empowered? And let's ask you that first, Ellen, just in case we lose you again.
I know, but I hope not. I honestly, I use my disappointments as motivation. I've had a lot of disappointing swims throughout my life, and they nearly put the fire in my belly to push on and move forward. And obviously there are days where I don't want to get out of bed and I don't want to go training and I don't want to do what I'm doing, but there's nearly I feel like a responsibility to myself, and it's always going back to the original reason, why did I start? And that's why it's so important to write down your goals and set your goals, so that when you are having those bad days, you can go and look at those goals, put them somewhere that you're going to see them every day, and remind yourself every day of why you started and why you're going to work hard and where the end goal is. And it's not always about the end goal, and that's something that I've learned, especially in the past 5 years. It's really about the journey, enjoying every day and every day as it comes, and not thinking too much about the future, but just having it kind of in your eyesight that is possible, and that is what I am capable of.
And Amy, I know when we talked earlier on in the year, you talked a lot about the camaraderie and being part of the club and things like that. Give us some idea of how valuable that is for you, and obviously challenging during COVID and lockdown and things, but that whole thing of being with other people and helping each other through any challenges that you might have.
Yeah, I think as a team, you know, you're all like-minded individuals. You've all got the same goal, even though it's individual. You're in different weight categories. But yeah, you're all experiencing the same thing, whether it's going through an injury, people are dieting, people have missed out on qualification. So you've all got very similar experiences. So the fact that you can reach out to other people and just talk through it, I think that's just a great benefit, because you're all experiencing it together.
And Claire, you were talking about your disappointment in Tokyo, and and again, the majority of the time you are by yourself. You are training by yourself, doing those laps in the pool or getting on the bike or whatever you're doing with that sport. It's you've got to have that sort of almost incredible determination, really, as an individual to do it. How do you then manage that with the rest of the family? So when you were growing up, when you were going off to different competitions and so on, how do you get that balance?
Yeah, I think balance is a definite key word there, and it's something that in the past I've failed to have, and in my performances have actually suffered from that. So, for example, back in Beijing, I was so driven by that outcome goal, like Ellen said, you know, focusing on that gold medal, which is completely out of my control and something that you actually have no say over. It's whatever happens on that day and who's the best athlete. But I was so driven by that I kind of gave up everything in my life. I wouldn't go out with friends, I wouldn't go see family, I wouldn't do anything like that because I was worried that it was going to sacrifice that gold medal. So when I underperformed, I was absolutely gutted. Like, I was so disappointed because I'd put all my eggs in one basket. And looking back on it, I wasn't happy whatsoever. And I think that's the thing that's really important. It's setting out what your values are, setting out what are those things in life that are important to you, and how are you going to make sure that you give each one of those bits a bit of time. And, you know, as we get closer to the Paralympic Games, or particularly Tokyo with COVID going around, it was very much, I did have to detract away and go away from family, but then I found other ways of making sure I was staying happy, you know, connecting with them via the phone or Zoom or whatever else it might have been. So yeah, balance is really key, and it's definitely something that I've learned over my long career.
And one of the things I would like to talk about a little bit is the effect on the rest of the family, especially as youngsters, because they're not only having to deal with school, they're dealing with friends, they're dealing with trying to develop their sport, and they're having to then work with their family. What would you say to parents, and starting off with you, Ellen, what would you say to parents of potential budding Paralympians, of how they can best support their youngsters during the early days all the way through, but particularly in the more challenging times when, as you say, you have those off days which everybody has? What would you say, Ellen, as great advice for parents?
I think just constantly encourage them and constantly tell them that they can do it, and don't underestimate what they're capable of. And I think they need to be really aware of finding that balance, though, because there are some parents get too involved, and we see it time and time again. The athlete themselves and the child themselves, they end up resenting the sport or not performing in the sport because they feel too much pressure from their parents, and they end up quitting because they don't like how involved maybe their parents are getting. So it's just constantly being there and supporting them, and then realizing, do you know what, they might have had a bad, I know me especially, like if I've had a bad swim, I don't want to talk about it. It didn't happen. It didn't exist. And it's nearly like I go home to, that's where I recover. That's where it's my safe space. That's where, like, I just want to move forward. I don't need to be constantly reminded of it. So it's just knowing your child, I guess, and knowing when to push and when to back off. And I think you'll figure it out based on their response. I know I'd be quite snappy. And I think most kids and most athletes might be a little bit snappy if you're pushing too much. So it's just constantly being aware, and don't be afraid of just leaving them be, because I think that's where I probably had the most growth, is where I've been alone just to figure it out by myself.
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that, because Amy, you've clearly seen what I guess the Americans would call the hockey mums, you know, the ones who are maybe pushing a little bit too hard. What's your advice for parents to find that balance between support but not too much?
Yeah, it's just like, I think communication is key. You've got to know your child. I know from like my experience myself, I think I've still got like trauma from my dad screaming and swearing when I was competing. So I was so grateful he didn't go to Tokyo. But you've just got to encourage your kids, and don't sort of guilt trip them and make them feel guilty if they make a mistake. At the end of the day, it's sport. We are human. You can only try your best. And yeah, I think time on your own as a kid, you know, just leave them be, and then just offer you support and make sure, you know, you're there to help them when they're ready to talk, and then just encourage them to keep going.
Well, it's really, really helpful, some of your questions. I'm just keeping an eye on the Slido here. This is where you can put in your questions and things. So if you have any questions for our three fantastic Paralympians, please do let us know. I'd love to ask your questions that you would like to ask. And, you know, just put them in the chat there, or in the questioning and answer section, and we'll certainly pass them on to you. Claire, I just want to come to you for a second, because it's quite a brave thing. We've seen it quite a few times in the Paralympics where people have changed disciplines, and I know that was obviously a challenging thing for you in terms of the outcome, but it's quite, many people would say that's a really brave thing to do, to almost restart your Paralympian career. Give us an idea of what was going through your mind at that point.
Well, after Rio, I kind of realised I wasn't that happy with the sport. I wasn't progressing in the way I wanted to. I was putting in, 110% and not really getting anything back in return. So I just decided maybe my time's done here in the sport. Maybe I need to try and find a new challenge. So I took a few months away to realise if it's 100% what I wanted to do, because I think it's quite easy to just jump to another sport, and because you don't know what else to do with your life, and you're trying to avoid going into the real world. So I took a bit of time out and found out what it was I wanted to do, and realised 100% I wanted to do triathlon. It's always been something on my radar, and it had its debut in 2016 in Rio. So I decided what better time to do it. And it was so challenging. That first year of just going from being at the top of your game to suddenly, massively out of your comfort zone, and trying to learn so many different skills, and trying to ride a bike with, one hand, all the brakes on the one side, and not really stopping when you're going down a hill at 40k per hour was pretty scary. And I was like, why am I doing this? Why have I moved from a sport where I'm decent to suddenly going into something that I have no clue what I'm doing? So I really struggled with imposter syndrome and not believing that I was good enough, and putting a lot of pressure on myself to be amazing straight away, and it didn't happen like that. But I learned so much about myself, and actually now it's 100% the best decision I made. It's such an incredible sport. Being able to see the world, and actually on a bike, running, and obviously open water swimming, it's incredible, and it's such a nice community. You get at competitions everybody from the people that are trying their first ever triathlon all the way through to 8-year-olds, and then the elite guys, all under one event. And I think that's what makes it really, really special. It's just such a supportive community. So yeah, it was scary, challenging, stepping outside my comfort zone, but definitely the best move I have made.
Now, I'm going to ask a little bit of a cheeky question, because we've had a comment come in from Ellie May, and she's asking about medals. And I'm just going to ask, do any of you have, by chance, your medals with you? In which case, could we just have a group rattle of medals so that we can see all the medals that you've won? I'll let you go off, Amy, and go and collect them. I'm sure they're not far away.
No, mine's in a drawer next to me. I'm just trying to get them out. Okay,
so I'll give you a couple of seconds to do that. While you're getting those medals ready for this group rattle, get your pictures ready, your cameras ready, everyone, because this could be... No, wait, it's all about timing, Amy. It's all about timing. We're doing a group rattle in a moment. Just before we do that, I just want a quick high, low for all of you. What would you tell your younger self? If you go back to the beginning, what would you tell yourself then? What piece of advice would you have given your younger self, Ellen?
It's all going to be worth it, so just keep going.
Excellent. Amy?
Oh, there's a few things. I think it'd definitely be, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just don't be too hard on yourself. Make sure you're your own best friend. Be kind. And I think, I think that's the main one, really.
And what about you, Claire? What would you tell your younger self?
I would say don't be afraid to fail, as that is where you learn the most about yourself, and enjoy the process.
Great advice from all of you. Let's have a group rattle. Are you ready? On the count of 3, get those medals ready to wave in front of your cameras. Are we ready? 3, 2, 1, rattle away. Look at that, fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Congratulations to all of you. It's such an inspiration to see you, and I know we've got youngsters watching, parents of youngsters watching as well, who are just in awe of what you do. And I think what comes across is the fact that yes, the goal is worth it, but by goodness me, there's a lot of hard work along the way, dark mornings. And for all of you, I think we've got a couple more minutes we've got that we can talk to you before we move on to our next section. Is how did you deal with those really tough times when it was locked down and you weren't able to get out? How were you able to keep training and keep yourselves going, motivated, but also physically fit during that time? Amy, let's start with you.
I think it was like touching what Ellen said before, really. It's like, yeah, there is days you don't want to go training, and I think you just got to go back to yourself. If you feel like quitting, you need to say, well, what was the reason why I started? And yeah, it's for your own success, your own internal drive, but there's such a bigger picture because you are inspiring other people. So I think when you feel like rubbish in the morning, you don't want to get up, I think reminding yourself your journey's not over, you're inspiring other people, and there's plenty more to come. That's what I would do personally.
Brilliant. Claire?
Get yourself a paddling pool and a bungee cord. I decided that was a really good idea when it was 13 degrees in the pool. I quite quickly realised that's not such a good idea. I think I was really lucky. We had a really supportive group, training group around us, so we kind of kept in contact. And my boyfriend being a Paralympian too, we managed to keep each other quite motivated. Sometimes it was quite good just going back to the simplicity and the reason why you love the sport and not overcomplicating it, trying to find new ways about yourself and understand yourself a little bit better. So I think it was it was quite a simple time. It was definitely hard, but I think you just had to take the best of the situation and look at as many positives as you possibly could.
And Ellen, how did you cope?
I got a bike and I did stationary cycling, so I will not be transferring to cycling because oh my god, cycling is so hard. A whole new respect for Claire having to cycle and run. Jesus. So I set up a Zoom every day with one of my teammates and we just cycled on Zoom together, and it made such a difference because you felt like you weren't alone. And I think that is one of the most important things that I learned is that when you are having a hard time, reach out, because nobody wants you to feel like that, and everyone you love will try and support you. I also tried to set little goals every day, so even though I couldn't compete or even though I couldn't really see how I was kind of getting better in the pool or getting better fitness wise, I could set a goal of reading a chapter of a book in the day, and then that would be my little bit of a win every day. So it was just figuring out different things I could do to kind of give myself confidence and feel better about the situation I was in.
And one of the things that's really interesting listening to you all, it's something I think is inherent with Reach families and Reach children, is this ability to be creative and come up with ideas and to work it through and to be creative. It's been such a pleasure and privilege for you for us to be joined by you all this morning. Thank you so much indeed. Thanks for getting up early for that. Thanks for the jangle of the medals. It was absolutely great. Thank you so much for all you do for Reach, for the inspiration, and good luck with everything you do in the future, with all of your future aspirations. And thanks again very much indeed for joining us. To Ellen, Claire and Amy, all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you. I'm sure you'll be watching for the rest of the day, right?
Yeah.
Of course they will.
After the training, yes.
After training. Well, Toni Shaw was going to join us here today, but unfortunately she couldn't make it online. But she did record this video for us, so we're going to play that for you now.
Hi, I'm Daisy Bell and I hope that you're all well. Thanks for joining us today. I'm really privileged to be chatting to a really fantastic inspiration. She's no stranger to a world record either, and has not only set a world record for a 200-metre relay in swimming, but also was part of a world record breaking team for a medley relay. And in the 2020 Summer Paralympics, she won bronze. And to top that all off, she's actually only recently 18. It's Toni Shaw. Hi, Toni.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And we're going to start right at the beginning here because I want to hear it all. And we've only got a short amount of time, but let's start from the beginning. What were your earliest memories of being introduced to sport? Where did it all start?
Well, actually, surprisingly enough, I did start with swimming. It's the first sport like I tried. Like my parents took me as a baby, you know, to the child and parent classes, and then with my sister, I just joined like the normal learning to swim lessons, and I did lots of other sports along the way. Like I tried them at school, so I did netball, I did running, did a bit of hockey. Not gonna lie, I wasn't the best at them, but I did really enjoy them, and then from then onwards, I just stuck with swimming.
And when did you realise then that you were actually maybe a better than average swimmer? When did you realise that you wanted to take it really seriously?
I think once I'd finished like my lessons, like I said, I did them with my sister. The instructor just asked me if I like wanted to join a club, do a few more sessions a week, and I was obviously said yes because I loved it. And I think the competition between me and my sister, you know, I was a little bit faster, so I think that definitely made me want to keep going.
Healthy competition, it's never a bad thing, is it? Now, you're obviously very passionate about swimming yourself, but I know that you're also quite passionate about children learning to swim anyway as a key life skill. So would you encourage those watching to kind of encourage their children to learn to swim as a general life skill anyway?
Yeah, definitely. I think learning to swim, even just so you know how to swim, is so important. Like I said, like I was in the mainstream lessons, so even if you have some sort of impairment, like you can go along to the lessons, and I'm sure they can adapt it for you. That's what my parents did, and I really enjoyed it. Like I absolutely loved the lessons, and just being in the water and learning to be safe. It's such an important life skill. So yeah, I definitely recommend.
Well, it's great to see how passionate you are about it. You just mentioned adaptations there. So when you were learning to swim, or maybe in sports generally when you were younger, what adaptations did you have to make?
I think they just try and like make sure you feel safe and comfortable. So they'd always ask like, "Is this okay? Are you struggling with this?" So I did netball for a while, and like the catching and stuff. You know, they'd always make sure that I was okay, and I was totally fine. Like there wasn't many things I needed to change. Like I could do pretty much everything, but just knowing that they could change it for me made me feel a lot more comfortable. And I know anyone else trying any other sports, just know that the people who are coaching the session or taking the session will try and help you as much as you can if you're struggling with anything.
So you seem to have had quite a good kind of support around you then from a very young age.
Yeah, definitely. Every sport I've tried, no matter if it's through a para kind of sports side or just clubs at school, like everyone's so supportive, and I think you just need to try it to see how it is, because if you go in with doubts or worries, you might not give it 100%, or you might not even try it. So I definitely think try everything that you're interested in.
Yeah, I know a few other Paralympians have always said kind of try lots of different sports and find your one. Do you still find that you play other sports in your spare time?
Yeah, every so often I do maybe a little bit of running, or play a little bit of netball, something like that. But that's definitely just a bit of fun, like something else to do. I'm not so skilled at the other sports, not really a runner or that good at netball, but they're definitely good fun.
And what do you think was your biggest challenge as a child growing up? What would you say it was?
I think maybe just like being nervous of new situations, new people. Obviously, you're comfortable with the people you know. They all know that I have one hand, but maybe going into a big group of new people, maybe I'd be a bit scared, so I'd like hide it or something. But they're going to find out, and they're not, you think they might care, but they're really not going to care. They're probably not even going to notice. So I think just go in knowing that you're probably thinking about it a lot more than they're going to be thinking about it. So don't be worried, don't hide it. Just go in there And yeah.
And has that got better as you've got older, right? I'm assuming that you're at a point now in your life where you're super proud of it, and you don't feel like you have to hide it from anyone. Would you say that's right?
Yeah, definitely. Now, like, and for like quite a lot of years, like I'm not bothered by it at all anymore, and I know that other people aren't either. So I think it's just when you're younger you might think like that because there's not as many other people the same as you, but when you get older you realize it's not a big thing at all.
Absolutely, that's really great to hear. So then what would you say has been your biggest challenge, maybe as an adult or as you've grown into a sports professional?
I'm not actually too sure. I think just because I've grown up like this my whole life, most things that have kind of may have been a challenge I've kind of worked around. So yeah, I'm not too sure.
Well, that's probably a good thing if something quite big has popped to mind. How did you find out about Reach?
So my parents have been involved in it literally since I was born. They received the magazines, and then when I got a bit older, I'd see the magazines as well. And I just always thought they were great. There's so many inspiring stories in them, and I always loved reading them. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course it's always important to kind of have that support. And do you get good support from the para team? How do they kind of help you when you're out there training or out there competing?
Yeah, they're really supportive. They've made me like a prosthetic hand for in the gym. Like I've never really used one before growing up. I think I had one when I was very young, but I haven't worn one for years, and they made me one, which was pretty awesome. Like so I could do different exercises. Yeah, so they provide a lot of support.
Yeah, so I saw that you've actually only recently started using the carbofiber prosthetic in 2019. So have you found that that's really enhanced your training a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. Like things in the gym, like pull-ups and push-ups, which I could do before just with different adaptations, maybe not quite as well. Now I can do them so much better, and I'm so lucky to have had it made, and it is incredible.
Was it quite hard getting used to it at first? Because obviously, I guess you've come quite a long. 16 years without kind of using one, or 17 years. What was that like?
Yeah, it was definitely a bit strange. I was like, whoa, I can do this and this, things which I couldn't do before I could do now. But I got used to using it pretty quickly, and it was just great.
And do you use it socially as well, or do you use it purely as a tool for utility reasons?
Yeah, I just use it for like the gym and stuff. I never wear it when I'm just walking around and stuff like that.
So then I think a big question is why do you think you've been so successful? You're so young as well to be where you are. You must have such kind of a huge willingness and drive naturally in you. Why do you think you're this successful at such a young age?
I mean, thank you very much. I think I just well, obviously I love swimming, and I'm quite a competitive person, so I always want to do better, not just against other people but for myself. And also having like so much support from my family and friends, and also Reach, I think that's definitely gone a long way. Like without all those other people, like I might not even have gone swimming. So it's definitely down to like other people as well.
And a little later, we've got a really nice video of you reading quite an inspirational story. Do you think that this new wave of children's books helping to normalise limb difference is making a difference and is helping to like break any stigmas or confusion anyone might have?
Yeah, definitely. I think it will just help other children maybe realise that there are other children with these limb differences and stuff. So when they see it, they're not going to be shocked. So I think the book, the one I was reading, I absolutely loved it. Maybe it wasn't for my age, but I loved reading it, and I thought it was an amazing book.
No, absolutely, yeah. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of Reach children watching this that are very inspired by you. What advice would you give to any children watching if they do want to be a Paralympian one day, or even just want to kind of try out a new sport and maybe they're a little bit worried or anxious?
I just say give it a go. Absolutely everything. Just try it out. And I know you might be nervous at the start, but I'm sure after the first time you've been, maybe even in the first 10 minutes, all your nerves are going to have gone away and you're probably going to end up loving it. So I think just give absolutely everything a go. Don't be nervous. Don't be scared to ask questions if you're struggling or unsure about anything. And yeah, just try everything.
And from your experience in the Summer Paralympics, what memory do you cherish the most? Have you got a standout memory from your time competing there?
I think definitely the team, like everybody there, they were just so lovely. Like after every race, even if it was good or bad, you know, we'd all come together, we'd all be cheering each other on. And I was in some relays, and they were just so, like, the team was so close, and it was so special to be a part of that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Do you all kind of, will you meet up in between competing again, or is there like a WhatsApp group?
Yeah. Yeah, we message each other like throughout the year and stuff, and we usually only see each other through swimming, but we did go to like this event thing in London. We were like, whoa, like we're in normal clothes, like we were all dressed up. We were like, this is so weird, like we're not in like our swimming clothes with like wet hair and stuff.
Absolutely, I can imagine that's so strange actually when you're seeing them training or competing. And finally, Toni, because of course you just touched on it there, your kind of normal everyday life that you have outside of sports, I think it is important to highlight that I'm sure you do lots of wonderful things outside of your swimming as well. So who are you outside of this kind of professional athlete world? What do you enjoy doing in your spare time?
I absolutely love shopping and baking. Like they're my two things that I love to do. And I've just moved away from home to uni, so I'm doing business, so I try to do a bit of that as well. But yeah, that's kind of shopping, baking, Netflix, nothing that exciting, but you know, the kind of things I like to do, and seeing my friends and all those kind of things.
Oh, well, Toni, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great chatting, and we're really excited to keep following your journey here at Reach.
Oh, thank you so much.